Hey there everyone, welcome back to another Game Vault video. As always, I'm Captain Beefy. This is the Game Vault, and we're going to talk about, a growing trend in video games that we've seen lately, and that is the fact that they've changed when you're making characters and custom characters in games, gender selection from male to female into like body type A or B or body type 1 or 2, that sort of thing. So let's cue up the music, and we'll get right to it. All right, so this is from That Park Place. It is players overwhelmingly vote to keep RPG video game character genders male and female in online poll from Lords of the Fallen developer. So Marek Tyminski of CI Games, the developer of Lords of the Fallen, recently stirred up debate in the gaming community with a poll addressing gender selection in a medieval fantasy RPG and a promise to abide by the result for future projects. That's kind of cool. So he asked, in a medieval fantasy action RPG, what do you prefer to choose between? And we will follow the final result. First choice was body type A/body type B. Second was male or female. And the third was none of the above, which is valid, right? So anyway, body type A and B is seen as the gender politics option. We've seen that more and more these days. It allows players to select a traditionally masculine or feminine body type without assigning a gender to it. This option is typically paired with mandatory pronoun selection. Lords of the Fallen infamously used this gender model previously. So as you can see here, the results were overwhelming. The results, with 46,791 participants voting, were stark and undeniable. Body type A, body type B, 8.7% chose that. Male or female, 88%. None of the above, 3.4%. That means roughly 41,176 people selected the old male or female, 4,070 selected body type A and B, and 1,590 selected none of the above. The overwhelming rejection of body type A and B sends a very clear message to the game developer community. It demonstrates a strong player preference for traditional male or female character selection. It also aligns with the backlash seen recently with other games attempting to implement politically charged features. And it makes sense, man. We've seen over the last couple of years a lot of games fall by the wayside. A lot of games fail and fail miserably that have embraced woke politics, gender ideologies, that sort of thing. And this article has featured quite a few pictures from Veilguard. Veilguard is like the shining example. It is the Excalibur of woke games that have failed miserably. It's right up there with Concord, you know. The only thing that saved Veilguard was the fact that it was part of the Dragon Age IP, which already had a built-in fan base, so people, were already looking to buy it. Plus, a lot of copies were given away with things. There was GeForce, I think, if you subscribe to their Ultimate service or whatever it's called, I think for 6 months or something like that, you got a free copy of it. They were giving it away a few different ways. So there are copies out there that people got for free, but the game never gained any traction. Never hit 100,000 concurrent players for such a huge IP. That's crazy. The last iteration of the game, came out 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever, or no, 10 years ago roughly. 12 million copies were sold for Inquisition. This game is never going to come close to it. In 100 years, this game won't sell 12 million copies. So that's absolutely crazy. But the most prominent example, and here he's talking about it here. BioWare's Dragon Age the Veilguard launched to critical fanfare from virtue signaling outlets. The game suffered major commercial disappointment. It placed a heavy emphasis on progressive gender ideology. This included mixing male and female voices with varying body types, selecting pronouns, and even adding top surgery scars. This was new. Controversial inclusions for a medieval fantasy setting. Veilguard performed poorly overall, with both sales figures and player retention painting a bleak picture. Now, we've seen the body type A and B before. We've seen games like Baldur's Gate and Cyberpunk 2077, both of which have been fairly successful, Baldur's Gate extremely successful, and even Cyberpunk, now that it's fixed its issues after a rocky launch, being very successful, and both games reaching very highly acclaimed games, where you have the ability to have a traditional male or female body, but switch out the undercarriage a little bit there, if you know what I'm saying, and give a different voice and all that sort of thing. So you've got the ability to switch things up there, which is completely unnecessary in my opinion, but whatever. It's just there for the perverts and the weirdos, in my opinion. But hey, it is what it is. But the surgery scars, that was something totally new and completely unnecessary, and just something, it's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. What's next? I mean, are we going to have the male to female transition downstairs? In addition to having a regular male part or a female part, or the female to male transition. I mean, what? Dude, how far is this going to go? Because it's only going to go farther and farther if we keep allowing it to happen, and it has to stop. And players are trying to put a stop for it. And this poll is showing that we're tired of it. Anyway, sales performance. According to reports, Dragon Age the Veilguard sold only 1.5 million units, which was far below EA's lofty expectations of 10 million copies. Needless to say, Veilguard fell well short of expectations for BioWare and EA. Refund rates within the first 2 weeks of release, the Veilguard faced an alarming number of refunds. Reliable sources indicate that over 30,000 refunds were issued shortly after the game's launch. This represents a significant portion of initial sales, suggesting widespread dissatisfaction with this product. Trade-in value. The physical copies of the game rapidly lost value. GameStop and other retailers listed the trade-in value at a paltry $22 within days of release. An unusually low figure for a newly released AAA title. This drop-off in value reflects both low demand and the game's failure to resonate with players. The player response to Tyminski's poll mirrors the commercial outcomes of Dragon Age the Veilguard. Players appear to be pushing back against games that prioritize modern political messaging over immersive storytelling and gameplay. Simply put, players don't want gender politics in a medieval RPG. In fact, we don't want that crap in most games, Now, if you want to create a game and that's the focus of the game, like, Dustborn, cool. Go ahead and make your game. Make your game that centers around that kind of stuff. Create a new IP. That's fine. I can respect a company for doing that. I don't expect sales. As you saw there, less than 10% of the people who voted want that body type A and B. So expect to sell your game to less than 10% of the population of gamers. So, if you see your average game that you're trying to sell, like let's say you're trying to design a game that would normally sell to 1 million people, well, expect to sell to 10% of that, 100,000 people. If that's what you're looking at there. Don't expect to have the same numbers as you would if you didn't put that garbage into games, because it does turn players off. It turns a lot of people off. It turns me off. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want you to hire these outspoken voice actors and actresses, these developers that are on social media acting holier than thou and preaching and preaching their ideology and all that. I don't want to hear what they believe in. I don't care what they believe in. They can believe whatever they want. I don't want them spouting off at the mouth and expressing how much they hate me because of who I am or because of what I believe in. Because as soon as they do that, they're not getting my money anymore. And if you hire them, you're not getting my money anymore. Anyway, as CI Games considers its direction for future titles, the results of this poll and the missteps of the Veilguard offer a clear message. Respect the audience's expectations and preferences. Developers should focus on delivering engaging worlds and compelling narratives without alienating their player base through heavy-handed political inclusions. What do you guys think? Did the results of this poll surprise you? Will the gaming industry ever learn? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and to ring that bell for notifications. As always, I'm Cat the Beefy with the Game Vault. I will see you guys next time. Until then, peace.